This is Chick2Chick Uncut, raw and unfiltered.
Here's a big, heavy question. What is going on in our country? It seems like every day we're being bombarded with stories of some type of violence going on, divisive hate language, senseless murders every single day. And it's begging the question, have we lost our sensibilities? Have we lost our mind? Why are we devaluing human life anymore? That people are just killing each other left and right.
I don't know. It's such a heaviness and it weighs on my heart all of the time. And I'm finding that I can't shake it. You know, you have things that come out in the news or you see on your social media, and after a while, you shake it. You go on. It's not that you didn't care, but you shake it. I can't shake it right now. And maybe it's because it's at a high volume of it. Maybe it's who the people are or how I'm relating to it. But it's so heavy. It's everyday heaviness.
Well, somebody said to me today, it feels like we're at war. And that's exactly what it feels like. And, you know, we want to be very clear about something, okay? And I'm going to lay this out there right off the top. We're not going to use the words Democrat or Republican or liberal or conservative. This podcast is not about politics. It's about people.
Yeah.
And the value we place on each other and what is going on in this world, that it seems like, you know, somebody doesn't like something that you say, we're going to shoot you. You know, somebody doesn't like an attitude or an opinion that you have, we're going to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you didn't give me enough money for an Uber ride, I'm going to come back and take you out. What's going on that we just don't value each other and have no value for human life anymore?
I don't know. You know, one of the ones that really struck me was the young girl who was murdered on the public transportation in Charlotte.
Horrible.
And I wondered why that hit me so hard. Like, I didn't sleep well that night. And listen, we've been going through school shootings and horrific violence and murders for quite some time now. And so I'm not saying that one is better, different, more awful than the other. I'm just speaking from me in that was so difficult for me. And I think the reason is now on social media, you watch a murder. There was footage of a murder.
You saw it
because
happening.
as humans, we are meant to take all of that in. Unless you're in the police force, we're not meant to take all of that in to see the violence. Literally see it.
And we saw it. We saw this young girl sitting on public transportation on her phone, minding her own business. And this guy comes up from behind it and stabs her to death. And what was so alarming to me, it wasn't just the act of what he did, but everybody around her
Nothing.
sat there, watched it, and did nothing to help her. It was absolutely horrific, mortifying. How can you do that? How can you sit there and your sensibility, your instinct isn't to try to help this little lady who wasn't doing anything? She was minding her own business.
Right. And so where are we in society? Where are we in society that we just put our head down and our neighbor or our person sitting next to us or whomever it is, you don't even know. How in the world is it that we don't stop to help people anymore? When did we stop caring about others? I don't get it.
How did we become so numb? How did we become robots that we can look at somebody and say, I don't like what you're saying. I don't believe what you're saying, so I'm going to shoot you. How did we get to that point? And we have to go there. We have to bring up this whole thing with Charlie Kirk. I honestly, I didn't really know who he was. I didn't really follow him. I mean, I knew the name. He appealed clearly to more young people going to college campuses and talking about things that he believed in. I didn't know who he was, but to watch this man gunned down, cold-blooded murder, it was horrific to watch. And for you to not be upset about that or to celebrate that
is vile.
It is vile.
There's no other way around it. I did follow Charlie Kirk. I found his debating style just really important on campuses, even with adult people. Old adults could have benefited from that. I was not offended by him. I really learned stuff from him. I thought he was an interesting person. I didn't know him, but let me tell you, his murder absolutely made me sick. It made me sick to my stomach. And it made me sick in a way that I didn't understand. Again, I didn't know the girl that was murdered on public transportation, and I didn't know Charlie. But I think what it was again, that, oh my gosh, you can't go out into the world right now and have full protection that something horrific isn't going to happen to you because you opened your mouth and said something someone doesn't like, or you looked away that someone doesn't like. Well, I don't know how to place those feelings anymore. I don't know what to do with how sad and disgusted I feel about it.
Well, to watch him be brutally murdered in that manner, some people saw the video from one side, and to see the video from the other side where the bullet entered his neck, it was just absolutely sickening. I mean, we treat animals better than that. What is going through somebody's mind? Now, you said you weren't offended by things that he said. Let's say that I was offended. Again, I didn't know who he was. I didn't really follow him. I didn't pay any attention to what was, what his thing was. But what if I was offended? So what?
Exactly.
So what?
Roll on.
Right.
Move forward.
What if I am offended?
I don't know.
Does that give me the right to pull out a gun and to kill him because I don't like what he's saying? What happened to the ability to agree to respectfully disagree? Why can't I feel the way I feel and say what I want to say without fear that somebody's going to shoot me?
Yeah.
I mean, we have disagreements, right?
Not that very many.
Not that many. No. There are some things that we don't. But you view things in one way. I view things in another way. It's respectful. Well, it's respectful. And why are we at this point now that if you don't like what somebody says, I need to kill him. I'm going to kill him. And it's okay.
But it's also not just the murder. It's the way people are not speaking to each other with any sort of kindness or respect. I, of course, am on social media, and I am looking what other people are putting on their social media. And if I add a comment, I'm really trying to be thoughtful about what I'm going to say. Am I going to add to this conversation or detract from the conversation? I'm trying to add to it. But what comes back to you is like, you're sitting here going, what in the world? How did you take that in such a manner? Number one. And two, how are you such an angry person? I know the old adage, hurt people hurt people. Yes. When are we going to look inward and say to ourselves, do I really want to put something this unkind and hateful out there? What purpose does it serve, people? What purpose does it serve to not have kind conversation with other people? I don't understand. Well, you're setting yourself up. You're worried. Okay, I posted something and is somebody going to come at me? Are they going to attack me? Are they going to say something vile about my family, about my children? What's happening here? Why? What happened to civility? What happened to having thoughtful debates? What happened to families just sitting together and discussing whatever they want to discuss? And one person has one view and another person has another view. Now we're at a point where families aren't talking to each other. Friends are ending friendships. I know plenty of people, they've been friends for 25, 30 years. And now they're not friends anymore because somebody believes one thing and somebody believes something else. And that person is saying, I can't be friends with you because you believe that. Why? Why? So how did we get to this point? And how do we get back to being civil? How do we get back to saying, you know what? You're allowed to disagree. I don't have the right to kill somebody. Right. I don't have the right to viciously, brutally murder somebody. And it is happening every day. And I feel like it's getting worse and worse. In all my years, I feel like this is the worst that I have seen things. I feel the same way, which is why I feel sad. I feel heavy. I feel concerned about the future of my children when they are having their families. Like, what does this mean for humanity moving forward if we can't even have conversation? I'm sad for it. And I feel very stuck because I don't have an answer for it. I know that I'm trying to change, but if I'm to be honest, I don't trust other people to change. I don't trust other people to care to change. I think to myself all the time, if I were on a deserted island, okay, and I have to have all my needs met.
Yeah.
What am I going to care about the people that are on the deserted island? I'm going to care that we can work together, have each other's back, and problem solve. So why aren't we doing that now? Why can't we be like that now? And I'll also say this. Yeah, there's a lot of conversation out there. There's a lot of squawk on social media, all of that, but you make a choice to listen to it. You make a choice to digest it, and you make a choice to own it. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to.
There's a lot of information on social media. There's also a lot of misinformation on social media that I think is adding to the problem. I think it's causing animosity. I think it's causing division, strife, division, stirring the pot. It is misinformation that's out there. And just because it's on social media doesn't mean that it's true, doesn't mean that it's accurate. And yet people are engaging in things. I see things all the time, so-and-so died today. And then all of a sudden everybody starts chiming in, and here it was fake news.
Right.
That person didn't really die. But we're feeding into this, and it's a monster. It has become a monster, this pariah in society, that we are doing this to each other. When there is a tragedy, I always think that there's going to be a silver lining to things.
I like to think the exact same thing. What's the message? What's good coming out of us? Yes.
And going back to the Charlie Kirk thing, again, I didn't know who he was. I didn't follow him. I didn't understand what he was doing and what his mission was. But then that celebration of life, and I'm going to call it a celebration of life. I'm not going to call it a funeral or a memorial service, because it was speaker after speaker after speaker who got up for 5 hours to celebrate his life. And what really struck me is that people waited in line for hours to go to this. 100,000 people in this arena to celebrate his life. This overflow crowd in another building,
say across the street.
Millions of people watching this streamed around the world. And the message was celebrating his life, talking about Christian values, talking about lifting people up again, and what his widow said, right?
Yes, I was just going to say.
What his widow, Erica Kirk, said, which just, of all of those speakers, of listening to people for 5 hours,
it was like a,
that young man, she was talking about the man who allegedly killed her husband. And we have to say allegedly, because we don't know, right? Allegedly. She said, that young man, I forgive him.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's massive.
Wow. And you can say that.
Right. Well, you saw the people stand in the audience with tears in their eyes and applaud her. She's a bigger, better person than me. I can tell you that. But she makes that, in that moment, really made you think.
Yes.
And it just made you understand. We can forgive. We can move forward. We can find the good. This is something we have to put into practice.
Yeah.
We have to put this into practice. We're not going to be any better, and you can't keep pointing fingers. Everybody's got to show up to want to do better. Everybody.
So her husband is brutally and viciously gunned down less than 2 weeks before that service. And yet she had the fortitude to stand there and say, that young man,
I forgive him.
I forgive him. And she went on to say that the answer to hate is not hate, quoting the gospel. The answer to love, it's love. And it's always love.
Yeah.
Do not hate your enemies. Do not wish ill on anybody.
Yeah.
If she could do that at this moment of tremendous grief that she's feeling,
Yes.
that her husband's dead, the father of their 2 children, if she can do that, why can't we? Why can't we?
Because
What the choice message resonate.
It's a choice we have to learn to make.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing that I thought was so positive that has come out of this is that, he has this Turning Point USA, which again, I wasn't following, but since his murder, and he was going on college campuses to talk to young people, Turning Point USA has received more than 60,000 Let me say that again. More than 60,000 applications for young people to start up chapters at colleges, universities, and even high schools around the country.
Mm-hmm. It's incredible.
Something positive is coming out of this tragedy.
I have to hope that, even though, like I said, I'm constantly feeling heaviness all the time, one foot in front of the other. And I hope for this young community growing up, these young people who are witness to this. I hope that those are the folks who are going to dig in and try to make a difference. I have to hope that that can happen.
I hope it is a turning point.
Yeah.
For love over hate.
Mm-hmm.
I hope this message resonates with young people and they saw Erica Kirk standing there and saying, I forgive him.
Mm-hmm.
I forgive him. And I hope that message resonates.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's our perspective on everything and the events that happened. As we said, Charlie appealed to a much younger crowd. So we wanted to bring a young person into this conversation to find out how this has affected the young people and affected her specifically. Elizabeth Gallo is our guest today. Elizabeth, first of all, thank you for coming on the podcast. I know you were very, very upset the day that Charlie was assassinated. Why? What were you feeling that day?
Well, Flora, you say the word assassinated. I believe this is the first assassination in my lifetime. I'm a huge history buff, and I think about Martin Luther King Jr. and the Kennedys, but in my lifetime, this is the first assassination that has occurred. I think back to that day, September 10th, preparing for September 11th. I grew up in the tri-state, and that date to me, while I was a little girl, still very emotional for me. I grew up in that area where I knew people that lost grandparents, parents, brothers, sisters, you name it. And so I'm emotionally preparing for that. And then I see this happen to Charlie, who, as a young person, as a Christian person, I didn't watch him every day, but I knew who he was. I have some friends that knew him closer than I did, but it's just so close to me because I'm his age and I'm a Christian. I went to a Christian college. I wear my heart on my sleeve, not as boldly as Charlie did, but a lot of what Charlie stood for is how I try to live my life. And I still can't even believe that this is something that is happening in today's society. You go to college and you are supposed to have a space where you're having open dialogue and you're encouraged to share ideas and opinions. And this happened on a college campus. So if we can't have that conversation on a college campus, where can we have it?
Excellent point. Absolutely, Elizabeth. You mentioned the fact that this is your first assassination. It's mine as well. I asked my mother about this. I said, my gosh, you're now through all of them. Really, not Lincoln, but, you've been through the bulk of them. And she said, this is so jarring. It's so jarring. You talked about being a Christian, and I just wonder, how does that feel now? Do you feel a little more guarded, protected, or do you feel like you have a larger voice? How has this changed, if any at all?
I've got goosebumps when you ask that question. I think I'm torn right now. I went to a Christian college, Messiah University. I don't think you can get any more Christian than that in the name. But I'm reserved still. Like, I'm a Christian and the folks in my circle know that I am, and I use that to encourage other folks. But knowing that there's a possibility that someone doesn't align with where I stand in my faith, and Charlie was obviously on a bigger, under a magnifying glass and on a bigger stage than I am in my daily day-to-day activities, but just knowing that, okay, I'm a Christian, and in America, I'm allowed to be a Christian, where other countries, people are getting persecuted for even talking about religion, right? So I felt very empowered when I watched his memorial, and I had folks there that weren't as big of a Christian as Charlie, but now have gone to church for the first time, and maybe their whole life or opened up a Bible for the first time in, since elementary school. So it's been really encouraging for me, but to be honest, I'm still a little reserved, and I don't think I'm ever going to be as bold in my faith as Charlie is. It really depends on the circles that I'm in. And obviously talking to folks that I went to college with, I can be very open about my faith and my struggles and how I feel about things. A lot of my truth comes from the Bible. A lot of my values and morals are stemming from the Bible, but I'm realizing that is, in today's society, half the country, if not more, does not feel that way. So I'm definitely torn right now. I'd like to be a little more bold, and I'd like to feel more empowered like some of those speakers did at his memorial, but I just don't think I'm there yet.
Isn't that sad?
It breaks my heart.
Isn't that sad that you cannot speak your truth for fear of becoming the victim of violence? And are we supposed to be one nation under God? We are. And we're supposed to be one nation under God. Now, that doesn't mean if you don't believe in God, that's okay. If you're an atheist, that's okay. I'm not going to shoot you. I'm going to respect your decision to not believe. But we're supposed to be one nation under God. And I find that to be sad, that you're living in fear to just speak your truth. What did you think? You brought up the memorial service. We called it a celebration of life because I feel like they were celebrating Charlie's life. What did you think when Erica said, "That young man, I forgive him"?
Wow.
What did you think of that?
Again, chills. And slight tears here because someone told me once that forgiveness is for you and not that other person.
Yes.
And that's huge. I mean, to have closure like that, I guess in a sense, like that video on the internet, I really hope that her kids never see that. That's not how they need their father to be remembered. But for her to see that happen, whether I don't know if she was there or not. I'm getting conflicting stories. Whether she was there or not, she's seen it happen. For her to forgive someone, I'm not that bold. I'm not there yet. But that is what Jesus calls us to do. And I think knowing that forgiveness is more for her sense of peace, I think that definitely has to give her a little bit of closure and peace and hope for this unfathomable situation. And if I can just say one more thing I was thinking about, probably when you were my age sitting around the dinner table, you're not supposed to talk politics and religion. What did that mean? Because I understand what it means now. What kind of meaning did that mean, 20, 30 years ago?
You know what? I got to be honest. We did talk about those things. I'm in a big, loud Italian family, and we talked about those things. But it was okay to disagree. We just respectfully disagreed with each other. I remember my dad saying, "You listen to me," and he'd point his finger at me, and I'd be like, "Who do you think you're talking to?" But the point is, I didn't get angry and feel the need that I'm going to shoot my dad because we didn't agree with each other.
Yeah.
We still hugged it out, loved each other, but we respectfully disagreed. So we did talk about politics and religion at the dinner table.
We didn't. We didn't really talk about it. It wasn't because it was taboo. It was just other, touch points of the day or, whatever was going on. But I think, the part that I'm really struggling with, especially with you as a younger person, like this is where you're supposed to feel the freest and you're most excited to talk about things and to really find out, from other people how they see the world and all those types of things are so really important about how you are informed as a person. And so I am wondering, do you feel like you have a much more protected, guarded space in your life? And how do you find peace with all the crazy that's going on in the world?
I think, unfortunately, for right now, I have to be in like-minded circles. And that's the opposite of what I want to be doing. I love my friends and my family and different things I'm involved in. They're all great people, but it's helpful to have other perspectives and ideas come into the conversation. So for now, I feel like I need to just be comfortable in those like-minded circles and hopefully can find an environment. Again, work is touchy because you know who you can talk to about certain things and others you can't. And when you're dealing with customers, I'm in railroad construction, and certain folks you think will lean a certain way, and then you find out, oh, I read that person totally wrong. So work is not the place to have those conversations. So to answer your question, I guess just sticking into, inside my like-minded groups for now.
I always like to say and think that when there's a tragedy, something good will come out of it. And, we talked about that all of these that young people now are sending in applications to start Turning Point USA chapters. Apparently, they've received more than 60,000 applications. What have you seen a positive impact that's come out of this? You said you noticed more young people are going to church. What other positive things have come out of this horrific situation?
I would say in my own circles, again, where I feel comfortable and folks know where I've gone to college and I'm open about how I feel. Those people who, I never tried to push the Bible down their throat because that's not productive for anyone, have actually opened up and asked me questions stemming from the Bible, which is awesome. So it did give me a gateway, or provided a gateway for others to have those conversations where, they know I'm a Christian and they know how I try to live my life, but now they're questioning, well, why do I do these things? Why do I think this way? Reading articles around the country of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I think it was in Pittsburgh, a school in Pittsburgh. There were a bunch of athletes that came together and they were baptizing students, and students were being outspoken and just wanting to organize on campus and do something about this. And it's just been, I think everywhere I look, the devil is maybe thinking he made a mistake, because this is the opposite of the reaction that I think folks that, participated in this kind of thinking and actions toward Charlie, this is the opposite reaction. We're not going to sit around here and sulk. And obviously it's tragic and it's sad, and I did cry for many hours on end. But this is somewhat rejuvenating and re-energizing me to make a difference. Again, I'm still reserved and I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do that. But this had the total opposite effect, I think, of what these folks had in mind.
Like you said, it was an opposite reaction. There were, no major terrible things that took place outside of the actual shooting and murder.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No protest.
It was actual, I found it to be
no demonstration.
A beautiful, inward, peaceful, reserved, no fun in. Right. I have to believe that those who are your generation and your age have the ability to be the catalyst in this change. I think I hope that there are more young people who will become emboldened. And I don't want it to be in a negative way, like their way, the highway, but emboldened to affect change, to bring people together in a better space than we've been disconnected for so many years.
So, usually when we have a big event, something major happens, it galvanizes people to say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to change this. And there always seems to be that impact at first. But my question is, do you think this is going to have a lasting impact? Do you think what some have characterized that this is going to lead to a religious revival and we're going to get back to God? What are your feelings on that?
Well, I don't know all the facts happening around the country, but from what I'm reading, and I have friends that are currently on college campuses, the amount of momentum that is happening right now around this incident, I don't see how this is something that's going to disappear overnight. I really don't. This is something that has fired us up, and I just don't see how you can forget about something like this. Again, in my lifetime, this is probably one of the most, I'm using the word monumental, monumental occurrences, other than 9/11, I guess, for me, really. And I know others are feeling the same. So I don't, this will not go away overnight. People will not forget, not this generation. And I think it's really just beginning.
I hope so. I really hope so. I feel that too. I think we just want peace. We're tired. I'm tired. We just want peace. Can we stop this nonsense? Can't we just all get along and agree to disagree? It's hellish. Yeah, it's tiresome. And you know, Elizabeth, I thank you for talking with us today. And I know a lot of people are in your similar position, and they're afraid, where they don't want the backlash. You just don't want the trouble, you know? And so thank you. Thank you for talking with us today. And I have to believe that our audience and our listeners are also appreciative that you brought the perspective of your generation, your age, to this conversation today.
And do you have any final thoughts for us? And what message do you want to get out there? And what do you want old people like us and young people to know?
So watching that 4-hour celebration of life memorial for Charlie, and I actually sat down last night before bed and listened to the first 2 hours again, because I just could not take in everything that was being said. I was learning so much about that young man. I think he accomplished more in his short time on earth, much like Jesus, than most people do in a lifetime. And there was one woman that spoke who recently lost her husband, and on top of that, she lost her home in the California wildfires. And it brought me to tears. This is stuff about Charlie that we may have, and you know, I would hope that he would have lived till 70, 80 years old, and this might be something that we would not be discussing, but he brought medical equipment to that woman's door when her husband was going through cancer treatment. She didn't even know how he knew what her husband needed, but it was there as soon as Charlie got word that he needed help. He had since passed away, and then when their home was lost in the wildfires, he invited her and her daughter to come and live with Erica and the kids and Charlie in Arizona. So fast forward now to Charlie passing. Her young daughter said, "Mom, this is the reason why we're here now." At that time, they were questioning, why is this happening? We just lost Daddy, and we just lost our home. And now Charlie's gone, and Erica needs them. So I was just really encouraged to hear stories like that. And there was another woman who was a donor of Turning Point USA, and she challenged Charlie about 10 years ago. Hey, if you raise this amount of money, we'll raise half. It took him... They raised the other half. It took him no later than 2 days. And he called her up and said, "Well, I raised the money." And she said, "Well, Charlie, I guess we owe you a check." That gives you a deeper look into Charlie's personality and just his drive and his passion. And now I'm smiling about, you know, when I'm saying this, because that's the kind of person that I strive to be. Like, I want to be that person for other people, doing things where the spotlight's not on you. And maybe when I'm gone, that kind of stuff will come out. So I've been really thinking about that. And my heart breaks for his young wife and young children who are going to grow up without a father. I mean, I've been blessed to have my parents for this long, but I have friends that lost parents in high school, and they're starting to get engaged and married and have kids, and it's something you don't think about when your parents pass away young. Wow, my mom's not going to be around for the dress shopping and my bridal shower, and my dad won't be around for my father-daughter dance. Just little things that, you know, his kids are so young, and it's just really heartbreaking that they're not going to have the opportunity to enjoy him as a father.
All right, Elizabeth Gallo, thank you for coming on the podcast, and thank you for talking to these two old ladies about your thoughts and your feelings on everything that's going on in this country. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you both.
She brought up so many great points, and how sad that we have to couch what we say, and how sad that we're living in fear. And maybe the good that is going to come out of this is that maybe we're going to remember and get back to, we are one nation under God. We are one nation under God. I have to believe that as people were quiet, not wanting to say anything, but they're coming out in the woodwork, they're coming out with open hands and will want to connect with people who are hurting and can get to the other side with our help. So I think that goes back to Erica, no more hate. You have to love. You got to extend a hand. Yeah, I think that's what we need to do. And perhaps, in fact, this will be a turning point, the ultimate turning point for love over hate. Let's hope so. I agree. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. We appreciate you being here.